Good evening and welcome to the October 14th regular meeting of the Hillsborough Town Board of Commissioners. I will not read the public charge that is in the printed agenda, but it is there for you to see on the printed version here or on the electronic version online. Sarah, do we have any? I don't think we have any comments from anyone to speak on items not on the agenda. Yeah, no one signed up to speak.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Number three, agenda changes and approval. I think we have several modifications, so I'll start with your recommendation. If you have a change to the minutes.
Oh, to the minutes, yes, but does that, or no?
Do that to the.
Do that.
The next part.
Right, and Molly sent us a message about the applicant. Jen Spada is not here tonight. Not sure, we're missing two of our commissioners, so I'm not sure we should make a decision on that.
We could do that when it comes up.
Okay, so we'll keep it on the agenda and then we'll review it at that time to see if we want to dispose of that issue at tonight's meeting or postpone that to a date in the future. And then I've had a request to insert item 6A1 for information from Commissioner Humes. Is there a motion to accept the amended agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Kathleen.
Second.
Thank you, Megan. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Okay, and that takes us to number 4, presentation.
So we have two oath reaffirmations tonight. For those watching and those here who haven't seen us do this before. Whenever we bring somebody new into the department, we like to be able to, at some point after we've gotten their training done, bring them in, introduce them to the board, let the board meet them, and we do a public reaffirmation of their oath of office. We also, when folks are promoted, like to bring them back here. And again, have them kind of reaffirm that oath, the values, the ideals that we police to. And again, get that recognition for before the board. So tonight we have two folks that we are going to be recognizing. One of them in some ways is kind of a twofer for us. Jay, if you'd come up real quick. First, I want to introduce Jay Henderson. Jay is a recent addition to our department, only came on in the last couple of months. Jay came over from Durham County Sheriff's Office where he had 16 years of experience with them. He's an instructor with several specialties for us. He has just completed, or not recently, sorry, a little bit ago, completed Methodist University's West Point program. He holds his advanced law enforcement certificate. And when Jay came over shortly after coming, we had this opportunity to do a promotional process for sergeant, and Jay fit the bill perfectly. So we were honored to both have him with the department with his years of experience, but then also have the opportunity to have him right back in the supervision role. So we're really thrilled to have him. Whenever we do these, we also try to invite and hope that family will come up and get involved. So his wife and kids are here. So Jay, Carolyn, Jay, y'all want to come up and help? Yeah, and of course, we always try to figure out how we're going to arrange the space here. Where is the Bible? Oops. That's okay.
A little rusty.
Should have known where to look. There we go. All right. So, Carolyn, you going to help out with this part? There we go.
Okay, so repeat after me. I, Jay Woodley Henderson,
I, Jay Woodley Henderson,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of North Carolina,
and the Constitution of North Carolina,
that I will be alert and vigilant
that I will be alert, vigilant,
to enforce the criminal laws of this state,
to enforce the criminal laws of the state,
that I will not be influenced
that I will not be influenced
in any matter
in any matter
on account of personal bias or prejudice,
on account of personal bias and prejudice,
that I will faithfully and impartially
that I will faithfully and impartially
execute the duties of my office
execute the duties of my office
as a police sergeant
as a police sergeant
according to the best of my skill,
according to the best of my skill,
abilities, and judgment.
abilities, and judgment.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
He's giving you a hard time today, well. One more round. So our next one is I want to recognize now Lieutenant William Phelps. Will, if you come up. Phelps has been with us since 2000. Goodness, now I'm trying, I'll let you try to figure 2008. 16. Left my paper over there with all my notes on it. Will came to us, straight out of DLET programs, and he's progressed through our program. He made sergeant, and was most recently our investigation sergeant when he competed for a promotion and got the opportunity to be promoted to lieutenant. He's got an associate's degree from ACC. He also completed the West Point Leadership Program with Methodist University and holds his intermediate law enforcement certificate. And in keeping with our tradition, his wife and his daughter are here. Alex, will we come up? Is she gonna happen? Tyler, do you come up? No.
Repeat after me. I, William Connor Phelps,
I, William Connor Phelps,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of North Carolina,
and the Constitution of North Carolina,
that I will be alert and vigilant
that I'll be alert and vigilant
to enforce the criminal laws of this state,
to enforce the criminal laws of this state,
that I will not be influenced
that I will not be influenced
in any manner
in any manner
on account of personal bias or prejudice,
on account of personal bias or prejudice,
that I will faithfully and impartially
that I will faithfully and impartially
execute the duties of my office
execute the duties of my office
as a police lieutenant
as a police lieutenant
according to the best of my skill,
according to the best of my skill,
abilities, and judgment.
abilities, and judgment.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Does upset you?
Today.
All right, congratulations, Will.
And before we get to the consent agenda, I just want to point out two quick things. One is that a reminder that today is Indigenous People Day, and the board approved a perpetual resolution honoring Indigenous people each year, especially the Occaneechi Band of the Saponi Nation, on whose ancestral land we now inhabit. And also out of cycle that you don't see in your packet, a proclamation was provided for the Central Sterile Week, which is this week, that has to do with hospitals and healthcare and creating sterile environments for patient care. So that does not appear in the regular word here. So consent agenda.
I make a motion to accept the consent agenda, except for a minor amendment to the regular meeting minutes from September 9th of 24 to add the language in the motion. I don't think I put my notes. There was a motion for 6A at that meeting. It was written that the market rate units shall include similar HVAC installations. When I actually said similar HVAC and insulation installations, that would be the change.
Thank you for that correction. Okay. Are there any other changes? Is there a motion to approve as amended?
Move to accept as amended.
Thank you, Kathleen. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, everyone. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. And moving on to the regular agenda, I see that Commissioner Hughes is not here tonight. So the new item 6A1 will have to be tabled for a later conversation. Moving on to 6A2, Unified Development Ordinance Text Amendment, Section 5.2.8, dwelling accessory and applicant initiated change. Oh.
Yes, thank you. So it's strange the applicant isn't here for this one either. I will say that's unusual. The applicant's been very prompt, and also been in a lot of communication with me. I checked my Outlook just before, to make sure that we had correctly communicated the meeting date and time, and they knew that it was tonight at 7, so I'm assuming something's come up. So it's up to the board if we still want to have some conversation. Perhaps they'll wander in, and then you can decide if you'd like to table the item to the next meeting. Whatever you guys, however you'd like to proceed.
Thank you. To help us decide whether to proceed, do you have input on, was the applicant amenable to the suggested staff language that is really at the heart of what?
Yes, yes. So at the planning board meeting, there was some discussion about that. They were amenable to that.
Okay, thank you. What was the pleasure of the board? Do you want to proceed or postpone until that applicant is?
I do have questions and we possibly could go through those, without the applicant here if we want to, or we could wait until the applicant.
I'm fine to hear questions.
I would prefer to wait for the applicants so that we see the applicant like other applicants.
Okay, so Megan, are you content to ask your questions in the future, or would you like to ask those questions now while it's fresh on everybody's mind?
It's no bother either way. I can wait till the applicant is here also.
Okay, is that agreeable to us, the board? We'll wait till the applicant. All right, okay.
And so do we want to wait and see if they come in later, or do we just want to go ahead and table the item to the meeting on the 28th?
I would prefer to table.
It is 7:15. Usually people would have wandered in by now if they were coming.
This is on the works session.
Yes, that would be the work session for the 28th.
Okay, is that agreeable to everyone? Yeah, great, thank you.
And I think perhaps we need a motion for that to table to the 28th.
I'll move to table the item until the October 28th work session.
Second? Second. Thank you, Rob. Any more discussion? All in favor? Any opposed?
And then the same for 6B. This one we knew about ahead of time, from the status. So if you guys want to go ahead and table it to the 28th, or if you wanted any discussion on that.
I hate to say, but I can't hear anybody except you.
And then when I turn it up, it's getting feedback, so people just.
Yes. feedback.
Closer,
Yeah.
about a little better.
No, I don't think that was working.
That was better.
Test.
There, yeah.
So yes, just to repeat, if you guys wanted to have any conversation about 6B, or if you wanted to go ahead and table that one to the 28th as well.
Is there a feeling among board members, is this something you think needs a lot of discussion, or do you think you know everything you need to know and are ready to vote? Because we have had several conversations, so.
I think at this point we can move ahead.
Want to move ahead?
Oh, yes, I move to move ahead.
Rob, how do you feel?
I'm fine moving ahead or table, I go either way.
Yeah, same, I could go either way, but I agree that we've had some discussion on this topic already.
Evelyn, would you like
I
to?
can't hear anybody, so either I move or I just soon, if I since can't hear anybody, I just soon postpone it.
Yeah.
Delay it, put it on the table.
Okay, is everybody, microphone's like really close to be able to be heard?
I moved to go ahead and discuss this evening.
Okay, I can understand you, but I can understand you. You,
I'm getting closer.
Yeah, well, it seems like there's a consensus, Evelyn, unless you object, to go ahead and let's hear this application and try and make a decision. Thank you.
May not say anything, but I can talk without the microphone too.
All right, just give me 1 second here and I'll go ahead and share my screen for the viewers at home. This one. Item 6B. Video text amendment, the applicant is proposing multifamily in the general commercial district with the special use permit.
Just can't get to the. Attention.
The applicant is proposing to allow multifamily residential in the general commercial district subject to a special use permit. Specifically, they're proposing to amend table 5.1.8 use table of non-residential uses.
What page I'm having, thank you.
And again, this is UDO text amendment, so it would apply to all general commercial zone properties. And it's planning staff's position that the town is getting ready to update the UDO, the future land use map, and it'd be better to reevaluate locations for mixed use and multifamily at that time as opposed to right now. And if the Board of Commissioners wants to allow the change, staff has prepared a draft amendment with additional edits, some standards of evaluation for the Board of Adjustment for the issuance of a special use permit. Comments from utilities. The town sewer model is based on commercial flow rates consistent with the NC Administrative Code. And flow from residential development within commercial areas is consistently higher than commercial flows. Utilities would need to remodel the impacts of allowing multifamily by right or with a special use permit in commercial areas. And based on current sewer capacity constraints, it's unlikely that the remodel will show that the needed capacity is available. The planning board comment, they recommended denial of the proposed amendment with a vote of 6-0 with or without staff edits. Planning board said it likes mixed use and would like to explore more options at the UDO and future land use map update. And the planning board was not convinced that this is the best way to achieve more mixed use. And they indicated there wasn't enough evidence to support a general commercial wide change at this time. And with that, I'll take any questions you might have.
Thank you. Kathleen, would you like to start with questions?
I don't have any questions. You know, this is something we're constantly having to fight for commercial properties and having true commercial properties in our commercial districts. All this does is wipe that off the map. I am not supportive of the changes. We're getting a precious few. And I want to play the long game and have commercial property, because once, as we know from Waterstone, once it goes residential, we're stuck with that for decades upon decades upon decades, if not in perpetuity. So I am not in favor.
Thank you. Rob?
I don't really have any comments other than, yeah, I'm in agreement with the planning board's, decision, and that, although I do wanna, you know, find ways that we can introduce kind of mixed use, developments. I don't feel like this is the right time. It's a little premature.
Yeah, thank you. And my feelings are very similar. I'll note that we've tried that once before and that did not achieve liftoff with the Daniel Boone property. You know, maybe things have changed over the past 5 years. It could be a different thing going forward, but the UDO rewrites the appropriate place to have that conversation. So I'd say.
I'm also in agreement with Mayor Bell and Commissioners English and Ferguson. I don't think this is the place to put this change in, especially with the other properties being also zoned as general commercial and what might happen there. So I would say I don't agree with going ahead with what the applicant proposed and stick with what the planning board has recommended.
Thank you. Evelyn, what are your thoughts?
I heard but a third of it. But whatever she said, you were not, so tell me what you said again.
I would go with the recommendation from the planning board.
Okay, I go with the planning board.
Okay.
Is that what Kathleen said?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
And you too, you should.
Yes, ma'am.
So in that case, we would be looking for a motion for denial.
I'll make one motion to deny the applicants.
Nick Manning, is there,
Second,
Kathleen second, is there any more discussion? All in favor to deny the request? Any opposed? Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I see that we have Jen, connecting remotely, and, Hanley's here. And Jen, I hope things are well where you are, that you have electricity, obviously, but
And Mark.
Thank you. Yes, the internet has been spotty here and there, so I have my video off just to try to conserve bandwidth, but thank you.
we're glad you're with us.
Right. Let me know if you can't hear me, if I need to step closer, step away.
No, I can hear you.
Okay.
You're fine.
Good. I'm excited to be here tonight to talk to y'all about the equity update. Essentially, we really want your feedback tonight on the proposal that we received from Central Pines to move forward with developing an equity plan. But before that, I'm gonna just provide an update on other work that we've been doing to get to where we're at right now. So as you all are aware, we have been working with countywide efforts with our One Orange team. So that's Orange County, Chapel Hill, and Carrboro. And I believe it was about a year ago that we implemented the racial equity dashboard. And that's our data dashboard. And we've made some improvements based on feedback from whenever it was initially implemented, as well as feedback that we received from you all from the Assembly of Governments meeting earlier this calendar year. So just a quick snapshot of some of those updates. We removed those pie charts that were really hard to understand and interpret. We also added some more narrative that's easier to toggle through the dashboard to kind of get the information of what you're looking at. And it's more user friendly. So regardless of what device you're using, whether it's a phone, a tablet, or a laptop, you're able to see the information better. We also added at the very bottom a user feedback form. So anybody that goes on the site and you're clicking through, if you see anything that doesn't make sense, that you would like to be improved, or if you see something that's great, we'd really appreciate for you to complete that feedback form so we can continue to update the dashboard and make it user friendly and useful for everybody. In addition to the dashboard, our countywide team is working on a racialized history project. We're really in the beginning phases of that project. And some of you may receive an email this week to try to gather resources to help us move that forward. So moving on to some of our internal Hillsborough specific efforts. We've been tweaking an equity lens, and we're currently in our pilot phase, as we'd like to call it. And to take a step back, this equity lens was developed from the GARE, the Government Alliance on Race and Equity tool that they have. So our countywide team took the GARE tool, made some edits to try to make it more user friendly. Then our internal diversity, equity, and inclusion core team took the countywide lens and made even more tweaks to make it easier, more efficient, and to work better for our Hillsborough specific practices. Our DEI team, we've tested it many times and many different examples. And currently our operations team, which is our department heads and different division managers, are testing it with their operations. And we're having a conversation later this month to get their feedback on how it's worked for them. And this is just what our current version of the equity lens. It's got 6 different steps, questions within each step. Yeah, we're testing it out and continue to make edits to make sure that it is going to be efficient and something that all of our departments will use going forward. So now we're getting to our equity plan. As part of the town's strategic plan, we're wanting to develop an equity plan. So some background, our DEI core team, we've had a lot of discussions on how we should move forward with developing this townwide equity plan. We've reviewed a lot of other racial equity plans. There's a lot available on the GARE member portal. And that's where we looked up a lot of those, and we tried to find any that were within North Carolina as well. Some of our DEI members also had conversations with other municipalities who have already developed a plan, so trying to get their lessons learned, what went well for them, what didn't go well, what they might have done differently, and if they had any advice for us, just starting out this process. And so those conversations were really helpful in kind of guiding us to decide what we're gonna do and our next steps. So we had a lot of conversations internally too, is if this was a plan that we were going to build internally versus have an external consultant help guide us through this process. And so essentially based off of our internal staff capacity and just our areas of expertise, we decided it would be best to have somebody external that has some of that expertise and the time to help guide us through the process of developing an equity plan. And as we were starting to develop an RFP, we decided to reach out to Central Pines, the Council of Government, and to see what resources they have, or if that's something that they could help us with. And they were more than happy and excited that we reached out to them, and really excited to help us do this work. So the proposal that we have from Central Pines, it is in the agenda packet. And within that, the plan cost is about $34,000. We do have that currently in the budget. We initially budgeted $20,000 for a consultant, an additional $20,000 for our countywide efforts. So essentially, we're having to take some of the funds from the countywide efforts to move forward with working with Central Pines. So that just means we may be coming back to you all later with any budget amendments to continue those efforts. So the scope of the equity plan is going to be internal and external. And so internal is the organization, our policies and practices that really affect our employees. And the external focus is the community focus, so the services that we provide to the community and how those any inequities that may come up and strategies to mitigate any of those inequities. And so generally we are focusing on equity, but we are leading with race. And so this really follows the GARE methodology by going with that process. Then the proposal, there's more details about each phase. Currently, there's 3 different phases to developing the plan. And essentially it'll take, with our current estimated timeline, it'll take about a year to complete. So the first phase is really going to focus on collecting data and engaging the community and developing teams and identifying our stakeholders to continue to move this work and this plan forward. Phase 2, we're really going to be taking the information that we get from phase 1 to help build out the vision for you all with the board and to help build out next steps based off of the results from phase 1. And by the end of phase 2, we hope to have a draft plan. And then after that draft plan, we'll go back out and get the community's feedback and figure out implementation and have a plan adoption. I know I went through a lot of that really fast, and there's a lot more detail in the proposal, but before we open it up for feedback, I want to see if Jen has anything to add that I may have missed.
Nothing else to add. Thank you, Haley.
Yeah, so now open it to you all for feedback or.
Thank you. How about we start with Evelyn to see if she has any questions? Megan, do you have any questions?
I don't know if it's a really good developed question, but the proposal from Central Pines. Will that include though some of the work that the county, like you have the 20,000 for internal and 20,000 for working with the county? Will some of this work also feed some of that other that's going to happen externally to us? I mean, there's the community, but also the Orange County portion of it, I guess. Like I said, it's not a great developed question, but hopefully you can find it in there.
I mean, for teens, if I understand
Yeah.
correctly, so the work with Central Pines for our town equity plan, was there gonna be any crossover with the countywide work?
Yeah, I think that's, you got it.
Yeah, I don't have a clear answer. I didn't see that, we haven't specifically talked about that with Central Pines in the proposal. They're aware that we do have a countywide group. Not sure what that might look like.
I guess, when I'm thinking about like data collection, are we possibly doing some data collection twice? That would probably be the first one, and possibly because it's the first task to be done. That would be, I just would hate to duplicate efforts in any way.
We can make sure that we're not duplicating those efforts.
Just,
Something I can raise, because we've got a COG meeting coming up. So that's something offline I can follow up on also at
Yeah.
that meeting.
I guess like because if the county is like
No,
looking for one piece of data, but then also the town's going for that same one, like.
well, I'm on
Yeah.
that same page. If
Okay.
we don't reinvent the wheel I've had this conversation with the COG on some of the different initiatives. And certainly there is support, and I'm saying glittering generality and general operating of principle. Haven't had conversation on this project specifically, but I'll be talking with the COG anyway, at our meeting. So it's something that I'll just, if you haven't spoken with them already, I'll be reinforcing.
I think that probably gets to what I was trying to get to. Thank you.
So my questions are of a similar kind of perspective as Megan's questions. So there's no relationship between these two efforts. They're independent silos, but Central Pines knows about One Orange, I hope, and
Right.
the work that's being done. They're not
Right,
blank
so,
slate on it.
right, so it is essentially two efforts. However, like the work that we're gonna be doing with Central Pines with the town is gonna really, I kind of say run side by side. Because we have the countywide framework, and so we're gonna be working from that framework to develop this plan with Central Pines.
Are any of the other municipalities or the county also working with Central Pines on this, or will we be an outlier in that regard? Are there any consultants? Are they using any consultants for their?
Not to my knowledge. I don't know, Jen, if you've heard anything about the other jurisdictions.
yeah, so Carborough has adopted a plan. I think it might have been this past summer. I think it was shortly before their manager started. And then Chapel Hill also has a plan that they developed internally. So we are the first to be working on it with a consultant to help guide us, if you all approve it. As far as the data collection goes, it's something that TJ Cog, still in the habit of calling it TJ Cog. Central Pines has a lot of data collection that they already do. So when we start off the process, it'll be kind of going through the data that they already have. So some of it will not necessarily be reinventing the wheel. They do a lot of that work already. So we may be able to pull from those efforts. We may also be able to pull from our data collection that we do as part of our partnership between the jurisdictions and the chamber, as far as that data collection piece goes. But we'll certainly look to see if there are ways to further kind of reduce that potential duplication. And then as far as once we actually go through start the plan development, one of the things that we had talked about with Central Pines is that sometimes there's confusion among the community about what's a town service versus a county service. And so for feedback that we receive that relates to a county function, we talked about how that's not something that will exclude from that feedback process, because we'll be looking to get kind of feedback along all service areas, but we would be sure to pass that along to the county to use as they see fit, but sharing that data that we get through our process to help inform their efforts as well. And so looking to continue that collaboration as we go through this process.
That's helpful. Thank you. That answers my question on that. And the other part is the cost sharing. I'm not fully understanding if the 20,000 plus 20,000, but now we go 34,000 and maybe an additional 5,000 for the other project. So what's the total amount of money that we need to be on track to be accountable for all that work?
Yeah, so Jen, you can correct me if I misspeak. So currently we have the funds in the budget and it's in the same line item for, so the 20,000 for consultant, 20,000 for the countywide efforts. So because it's in the same line, we can use those funds to go towards this. And then whenever we submitted the abstract, like after we submitted that, it was the time crunch is like, okay, maybe we don't need the 5,000 budget amendment now, but we may need to request that later. If that helps.
Yes. So, okay. In addition to that question, so if we had budgeted 20,000 for a consultant, but now it's 34, and then we had budgeted 20,000 for One Orange, are we saying that One Orange doesn't need all of that money, or we need to come up with, you know, I think one calculation I had is that we need to come up with like 19,000 extra dollars above and beyond the 40,000. I'm just trying to understand what our obligations are.
We don't necessarily know yet with the countywide efforts. I know we were able to save some money with doing the dashboard internally, but since we're really in the beginning phases of this racialized history project, we haven't gotten to the point to see how much that may cost and how much each jurisdiction may contribute to that. So I don't have a.
But the 20,000 was the placeholder
Correct.
for all of the One Orange work.
Correct.
Okay, so it sounds like we have budgeted adequately for now, but we may need to change that in the future.
Yes.
That's good. And that's a good answer too, because it's super duper important work. So finding the money, we'll just have to do that. That's it for me. Thank you, Rob.
I don't have a whole lot to add and in full agreement with you, Mark. This is, this work is very important. And I think that the difference between us and Chapel and Carver is they have full-time DEI, individuals that specifically work, you know, on this all the time. And so, you know, I'm not opposed to us, paying and working with, Central Pines to help us get to the place we want to get. So I'm good with it. Good work.
Well, I'm excited that we're working with Central Pines because again, I look at regionalism and it drives me nuts when we all go off in our different paths and then things happen and we realize, oh my gosh, we've duplicated effort. We missed chances to share data, to share knowledge, to share resources. So I'm thrilled. Diversity, equity, inclusion is one of the bedrock operating principles of the COG region wide. So while that comes from our strategic plan that was adopted a couple of years ago, you know, this gets to be some of the early work that we're doing in the region. And I know that there's been some other work. I can't speak to specifics, but I know there's some, but this, you know, the way that the COG works is gets to be a blueprint that again will be shared across the region just by nature with how the COG works. And I'm in full agreement, you know, where we can reuse data, it makes sense. Where can we reuse resources? It makes sense. It's important work. It's where we put our values towards action, or set the foundation for action. You know, we don't have our guiding principles if we don't have the tools, if we don't have the knowledge, if we don't have the data, we're just shooting in the dark. So this gives us, I believe, just a strong foundation that's needed that betters across the region. So I'm really excited. And I'm glad that I know that the COG is aware of One Orange because it's certainly I've been in meetings where it has been raised multiple times over the past few years. So it is not a new concept, and again, just operating principles of COG. I'm confident that they will be leveraging. But again, you know, it gets back to with this project being tailored, you know, we being the funding source, they're going to meet what we ask for. So I think this is where it's gonna be incumbent on staff to probe and make sure that we ask the questions to learn what the COG is doing across the regions and vice versa, so that, we all don't know what we don't know, and that just reduces that gray area, and we're able to leverage further. But I'm really excited about that we're doing this.
Thank you. So in addition to a motion from us, what else do you need from us to
That's
proceed?
essentially what we need, your support to continue to move forward with.
I will
Central Pines.
move forward as presented.
I say,
Thank you, Kathleen. Thank you, Rob. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. very
Thank you.
Thank you.
much. Thank you, Dan.
thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to hot topics for the next meeting. So in addition to those, Eric, those two hot topics, we now have maybe one or two additional agenda items that we're going to carry over from tonight. Is that going to be impactful to the scope of the agenda for the work session?
I think we should be able to make it, but staff, we can talk afterwards. If there's any issues, we'll come up with a plan. So we've got the Government 101 graduation, which should be the first thing that we do. And then also Stephanie's gonna do a presentation for us on Highway 70. Pedestrian and bike safety and some options that the board has moving forward. Yeah, so I think she's got some excellent information. It'll be helpful, be a good discussion.
Thank you.
Can I just say thank you for that, because that's something that being on the original Highway 70 Corridor Task Force 2006, 2007, I mean, this has been a topic and we always feared a fatality. And I know that staff had been working with DOT and options previously. We had the legislative session, for the listening sessions, and part of pedestrian multimodal bike ped safety on DOT roads. And it was, again, this was because people are dying and needlessly. So thank you. I'm glad to see this continue. I hate the reason that it continues, but I hope for the love of God, we can finally get a solution, because every day there are people walking that at risk. So thank you.
Yes, thank you, Kathleen. Updates. Kathleen, do you want to start?
Well, as I mentioned, that we had the league's listening session for the Legislative Action Committee, with things that, and the way they did it this year was they always do it a little bit different year on year. This year, they had 8 listening sessions, and some regionally, some with like the mayors, some were, the affiliations. It was but essentially 8 constituent groups. And so we discussed literally as a group, and I was at Elon University, roughly about 33 people were there, Central, a little bit of Western, but the topics we talked about were the bike ped. We talked about we needed government being the last resort for the most vulnerable and needing the resources, so water and sewer, for housing, for roads, the basics of eating, sleeping, peeing and pooping indoors for all people, and meeting the General Assembly. It was alarming to hear from staff that the housing, the home builders associations continue to want to eliminate all minimum code. That is, I can't tell you how horrifying that is. And we were talking about The fact that handyman can now work $40,000 without any licensing or credentialing, which puts people at risk. And especially in North Carolina with the weakened codes, the weakened inspections, and now being vulnerable to people who have no oversight. So we spent a lot of time talking about what we would like to see. We were told there was gonna be essentially no chance that any of that will go through because of the strength of the home builders, which is disturbing, but it was across the board, people who were there, red, blue, independent, and there was a consensus for the topics across the board of some of these basic local government services. And for that, to me, it's heartening because of the unity at local level of serving folks on the ground level. On the COG, we are meeting, later this month. We have shifted, so we do not meet monthly. We only meet 5 times a year, as the delegate level. For the forum, things as you can imagine, have had some, with changes, so we won't meet next until I want to say it's going to probably be December, which is unusual. On the museum board, just for you guys to know, is that I have been appointed the museum representative on the Alliance board, so. Nice. Yeah, I'm excited about that, and I want to share a couple things if I can. I was invited to speak, welcome folks at Back to Eden, which is the former Wortham family plantation in Henderson, North Carolina, that was purchased by an African American in 1 year after he left incarceration. When he came out of incarceration, he was given a $45 gate ticket and a $52,000 restitution fine. He paid that off in 6 months. They give folks coming out 6 years. Within a year, he had purchased the plantation. Last week, there was a piece of metal, they unearthed it, it was an entire wagon. So there's slave cemetery, the family cemetery, the cabins, the slave quarters, the work quarters, the house. And he has done a lot of work in preservation. His life story is being done as a documentary, but they're also filming. There's a fairly prominent African-American director who has done national plays. It's the love story between 2 slaves. And he is turning that play, which has been across the country, into a feature film, and it's being filmed at Back to Eden. We got to witness filming one of those scenes. But if you have not been there, I encourage you to take time. The property it is our history, and the resilience and restoration and hope that it represents of the healing possible. And his story, because the other piece is while he was in prison, he created a program. You come out with business plan, your business, but also all sorts of basic life skills. And it is, he started it for himself and worked with others. He literally has transformed hundreds of lives, both those incarcerated and those at risk and those after leaving. And it's every time I go there, I learn something more and am more inspired and absolutely humbled of what a single person with a vision, commitment, heart can change the world. And again, just the restoration, reconciliation that's available to us when we face our history.
Thank you for sharing. And what
back-
organization did you say?
It's Ken Spell, he's an individual. And the plantation, he's renamed it as Back to Eden.
Back to Eden.
And now Vance County's tourism is now based on 3 legs: Carr Lake, McGregor Hall, and Back to Eden. And the three together brought into $72 million into the county. And no, the story is just absolutely astonishing and amazing, and I was disappointed when I was there, and I was looking at the faces, and the only white folk were speakers, and that is, we're missing out on. It was missing out on, and it was a wonderful afternoon, so it's something that I encourage folks to go.
Thank you. Do you have any other updates?
I probably do, but I can't think of them right offhand.
Well, if you remember them, we can come back. Rob?
That's good stuff. Definitely thank you for sharing that. I don't have a whole lot. I think, we had a skate park dedication on 28th of September. Mayor Mark was there and myself and Megan was there. Thank you. Many staff, and it was just a great event. It was really, really beautiful day for one, and Stephanie did a great job of just showing everybody Hillsborough hospitality, setting up food and drink, and just really acknowledging the larger community that kind of made this happen. But thanks to all the staff that participated in that, it was fantastic. I think the people that showed up were had a good time, and I know the people that are utilizing the skate park regularly are just in heaven. They have, a really nice facility in their backyard. Talked to many people who, been going down to Chapel Hill for decades, and they don't go down there anymore. So they're staying here, and people come from all over. So skaters travel, and they're coming from kind of all over. So it's really, really neat event.
Elon, the city of Elon was very complimentary when I was, because I sat with some of their folks and who had attended.
Yeah, yep, we had, the Quinn?
Sounds right.
It was a Quinn, who's a member of the Elon, town council, and they're looking to build a skate spot in Elon, and so they were kind of coming and seeing what we did right, and they're really excited about bringing something like that to the residents of Elon too, so.
Quinn Ray.
That's it, Quinn Ray. We were supposed to have a intergovernmental park support group, meeting on the 9th, but it was canceled because they didn't get much, apparently, feedback from everybody in the group, and so they ended up scratching it. And we'll reschedule, I think the next one, April. But it was kind of disheartening because that group only meets twice a year now, so to lose one of those dates. It's kind of sad, but fingers crossed for the next one. And then we have a Parks and Recreation board meeting tomorrow night, so I don't really have any issue with it.
Thanks, Rob. Have a couple of updates. Start with the skate park. Yeah, that was awesome to be there. It's just so well done and well received. So kudos to everybody, especially staff for working there. And I got to meet Pat's baby at the event. So today is the second Monday of the month, and as I said earlier, it's the Indigenous Peoples Day. So I wanted to say that I was at the powwow over the weekend for the Okanagan and their Elements tribal grounds, and that was fantastic as always. Had an MPO meeting on September 30th. We had an update to the Unified Planning Work Program, UPWP, released that for public comment. We had an interesting presentation about wildlife crossing in a planning study for wildlife crossing. So in Orange County, there's about $25 million in damage related to vehicles colliding with various wildlife. 48 injuries, 875 without injuries. So we'll see probably some promotional materials from the MPO and maybe COG and others about wildlife studies and the importance of having wildlife corridors incorporated into designs for bridges and crossings.
How does it compare to like other surrounding counties? Is it the same? Do we have more?
That is a good question. They may have shown a stat on that. I will have to look through the presentation to see if they're if I can
Now,
share that.
Mark, is there something, that we can do, because we have a lot of residents who still feed wild animals, which is not good for the animals, and it increases risk of harm to both people, property, and animal. Is there anything, and this may be a question, Eric, you and Bob, can we do something? I don't know what enforcement would be, but that is, when you feed the animals, we're contributing to the problem, exacerbating it. And
That's a good point.
There may be some kind of ordinance that we could adopt, and I'll check on what our authority is to do that. But that would be, you can adopt the ordinance, enforcement becomes another issue. I'm not sure it's something that the police want to get involved with. So,
that's why I say I don't know about that, but it's a behavior that is it's leading to costs, people, property, and to the animals themselves, especially when, we've got the animals crossing as well as people who will feed that kill the animals.
So add that to a future workshop for something. Thank you. Yes,
First
Dwayne.
time, just a suggestion, if to pursue that before we try to do something in an ordinance and an enforcement world, maybe just a good educational campaign. I think most people don't know, and I have no earthly idea how you would enforce that sort of thing. and How you would craft language that would be good. I think education is generally been our preference for stuff like that, where it's a behavior we won't change.
Thank you.
And understood, and I'm not advocating something that we cannot enforce, but it's a behavior that needs to change for all of our safety.
We'll add that to the list. We had a presentation about transit ridership research, and of interest to Hillsborough. There was a little bit of discussion about the elimination of parking minimums. And that might be, definitely worthy of seeing what the NPO is doing when we do our UDO free ride and parking. And we had an update on, it's called Destination 2055. And that is the coordinated, master, transportation planning, effort between the Durham, Metropolitan Planning Organization and the Wake. So CAMPO is what that's called, Capital Area Metropolitan Planning Organization. So we're going to get a monthly update on the Destination 2055. That's looking at the big picture of our MPO, which is all of Durham, most of Orange, and a little bit of Chatham, plus the CAMPO. And I don't recall, it's Wake and probably Johnson and some others. So when something is of note that I will let you know, but we're going to talk about that on the basis. I wrote a letter for the support of the Dickerson Chapel AME Church for a preservation grant. We had an Okinichi Village work day this past week. It was underwater from the flood, and it did a fair amount of damage to the ground. And some of the structures were impacted on that. So we're gonna have to rebuild all four of the huts are called ATI, A-T-I. So we'll kind of figure out that work plan, but maybe by the end of the year, we'll rebuild all four of those. And then to let you know that at the last meeting, I mentioned that the lynching memorial marker was set for Sunday, November the 3rd, but we've had to postpone that because of a manufacturing delay in the plaque itself. So I will let everybody know when that is. But that is, as just a reminder, a memorial of the 2 or 3 people who were impacted with their lives from a lynching here in the greater Hillsborough area. And that's all I have.
So this past month, I attended the wet paint sale for the conclusion of Painted Orange. I highly recommend heading over to the Mill and taking a look at the art that's still on display. They were one of the biggest years. This is their 8th year, and it was their biggest amount of artists who were there. Over 144 artists contributed this year. A lot of great work. Then the second thing I wanted to bring up was you all have an invitation to the UNRV breakfast, which is November 20th. It's 2 hours from 8:30 to 10:30 in Durham. You'll hear from the UNRV and the Division of Water Resources on all the data that has been collected, what this board had passed I wanna say maybe it was before my time, so maybe a year ago, I think this board passed, a resolution on what the UNRB was going to propose be the new, new adoption of the new rules for Falls Lake. And so this meeting would go over go over that again, and then also they wanted to kind of formally kick off the process for readoption of new Falls Lake rules. That invitation came from Terry, from in your inboxes. And that's all I've got for this month.
Thank you, Megan. Evelyn, do you have any updates?
Let's see, after, to remind me, this is pretty bad. The ISO rating was 3.
Yes,
Oh, I got 2 in my mind, and it's 3.
yes,
You can't go, it's not likely to go any higher than 3,
correct.
because we're not as big as Chapel Hill. So that's really good. We should give a round of applause. Will come down, Stephanie.
Yay!
And so will Rob's, and so will yours, and so will yours.
Didn't you just be high?
Actually, that, clarification.
Yes.
Once you get to an ISO 5, the insurance, homeowners insurance rates do not go down
Do not, that's
a
not.
5, but they do go down incrementally for a commercial.
Commercial, well,
Yes.
good. That's
But we
even
were at
better.
5 before, weren't we?
Yeah, we were 5, so it's a big jump to go
That's
from 5 to
huge.
3. And water, the water system makes up 40% of the score, so we played a small part, but important. So,
Well, we were charged for it.
Thank you, Evelyn. Do you have any other reports?
Do I have it? No, other than the back roads.
Oh,
I mean, well, back roads bigger.
We like fire trucks. Thank you. Okay, town manager, do you have any reports?
No, no report. I've probably been over reporting via email, so I'll maintain a vow of silence the rest of the night.
Thank you. Okay, and we have staff reports that are in the agenda packet. Okay, is there any more business before we move into closed session? Someone like to make a motion to move into closed session?
So moved.
Thank you, Kathleen.
I'll second.
Thank you, Megan. All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. We'll take a little break, 5-minute break maybe.
So 5's better than 3.
Yes, no, 3's better than 5.
Oh,
So it goes down.
it's like,
Yeah. And we were at 5. I thought I remembered that we were at that 5.
It could be a
Next
change,
meeting.
Stephanie.
Sorry?
It could be, you talking about ISO rating.